What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Redonkulous Gaming. Today we are going to talk about Paladin. It's our first of our 5 Paladin videos, and we are going to start with Kyrian. Why start with Kyrian? Well, because a lot of people seem to think that Kyrian is the no-brainer covenant for Paladin. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why that might be. So first, let's start off by talking about the signature covenant ability, Summon Steward, which, you know, in the sake of for the sake of using it for a paladin, Summon Steward actually loses a little bit of its luster. The main point of leveraging Summon Steward is to give you, or a class, a cleanse if they may not have a cleanse, or in this case for Paladin, it's really just giving them a secondary cleanse. So if you're not familiar, Summon Steward will grant you a phial of Serenity. That phial can be consumed like a potion, and it's intended to really, the main point in which you use your phial of Serenity is to remove any curse, disease, poison, or bleed effect off of you. Again, Paladin having the ability to cleanse, it's less impactful, of course, here, but it also does restore 20% of your baseline health. So it's just a nice, extra utility feature to have if you're a Paladin. It's not anything by any means that is going to make you choose Kyrian over really anything else, mainly because, as I said, Paladin already really has this in their toolkit, so it's not a net gain to go Kyrian for this reason and this reason alone. But every additional utility, every additional cleanse, it's going to help. As we progress further into the X pack, using any and all utility you have is always a good thing. So it's worth giving a quick shout out to Summon Steward. But I would say if that's the one thing that's exciting you about Paladin and Kyrian, then you probably haven't seen the Paladin class ability, which is Divine Toll. If you're not familiar with Divine Toll, this is where you can do one of 3 things depending on which spec that you're in. We are talking Protection Paladin. So let's just talk about what Protection Paladin does specifically for a second. This is where, upon hitting Divine Toll, which has a 1-minute cooldown and a 30-yard range, it's going to throw up to 5 shields at 5 different targets based on, the fact that you're in protection. So you're going to throw 5 Avengers shields at once. It's actually a really nice and fun thing. Gameplay-wise, it's really thematic, obviously, given the fact that if you go Protection Paladin, then you're signing up to be Captain America of WoW. So it just adds and enhances to that theme, and is kind of neat to see so many shields being thrown out there. This is something that had been nerfed early in the beta, and we haven't seen too many changes recently. So it's probably a safe bet to say that we're not going to see a major overhaul to this skill. I think originally it started at 15 shields or something like that. It was pretty nuts, and they ended up nerfing that down to 5. So you're going to throw a maximum of 5 shields out there. So the way that I go about evaluating each of these abilities, in case you have not seen any of my prior videos, is I like to talk a little bit about how the ability feels, whether or not it's fun, whether or not it's something that enhances your overall toolkit. I then like to talk about the ability strength. Is it something that I feel is strong enough to go ahead and pick a covenant based on the strength of that ability? And then lastly, is it something that allows me to do content from a PVE perspective? And when I say content, I mean all the content. Is it something that I can do Torghast comfortably on? Is it something that I can raid comfortably on, as well as Mythic Plus, and kind of enjoy the vast array there? I will not be going into PvP, so if that's what you're looking for, this is probably not the video for you. So let's first start talking about how the ability feels. What I have to say is that having this ability on 1-minute cooldown is actually really nice, because it becomes something that you can cast a bit more liberally. It's something that you're definitely going to use to help with trash packs and dungeon pulls or in raid pulls, and it's not anything that you necessarily have to save from a boss fight perspective. So that part's nice. It's actually a lot of fun because it fits the thematic or the overall theme of the Protection Paladin, and being able to throw that many shields at a time, and pairing that with, there's a few options for Legendaries on this one, because it really kind of frees up and adds your ability to just kind of grab everything all at once, gain that initial aggro, and keep it throughout the duration of the fight. Obviously, Consecrate is hitting a little bit harder, and having that as baseline is ultimately going to help you with the overall threat situation. But it's been really nice to have kind of an extra shield in your pocket as needed that you didn't have before. So overall, it's a throughput gain in terms of the damage that you're doing. So that's really nice, especially when it comes to keeping aggro. It's worth noting, though, that Paladins in general are probably the tank class that is doing the most damage right now, regardless of Covenant abilities. They're just pumping out damage at a better clip. You know, it's not by a large margin, but it's definitely something that I noted. As far as the ability strength of Divine Toll, it is something that, you know, it does feel strong. And it feels strong. You know, if I were to zoom out just really quickly on just the class of Paladin overall, and if I were to take a look at what this grants me outside of just going protection, when I look at going holy, the fact that I can cast 5 holy shocks at once, or if I look at going ret and I get 5 judgments out at once, just being able to have Divine Toll really, you know, for every Paladin spec, it feels really good right now. So zooming back in to protection, it's a very strong ability because it's on such a short cooldown. I think 1 minute is probably the perfect place for it. I think Blizzard probably tweaked this the most early on, as I mentioned, and so it's actually in a really good place. And there's not a lot to really complain about. If you want to complain about it, you absolutely can. But I would say that as far as balance goes, it's something that it fits very well with the theme of Protection Paladin, but it's also strong enough to the point where you don't necessarily question or say, hey, this needs to be buffed. If anything, this is the Blizzard set the bar very early for Protection Paladin in terms of what they wanted them to feel like when you play them as a tank, and now it's up to the rest of the Covenants to kind of step up to the bar and kind of meet Kyrian currently. And that's something that we'll likely see as we explore the rest of the Covenant videos. So to answer the overall strength, I think it's perfect. I think the fact that it'll, and if we jump into just the viability of Divine Toll, it's something that regardless of what spec I'm in, and again I'm zooming out very quickly because it's very tough to talk about this ability and just in the protection format, because it does allow you to do so many great things outside of protection. But this ability is going to allow me to do just about every piece of content that I would want to do. Torghast, dungeons, raids, you know, throwing extra shields once every minute is going to help keep aggro, gain aggro. It's something that is working very well with the legendaries that Paladins have, and you can't say that about all classes right now. I am not even looking at conduits in terms of just evaluating the ability, but the overall viability of this ability, try saying that 10 times fast, is, you know, it's pretty much perfect. Like at this point in time, if Blizzard touches this thing at all, it might just be to tune damage up or down, because I don't know what more they can do. It's really neat to be able to gain the initial aggro on all the packs that you have as you run through dungeons. Speed running is going to be a thing with Paladins, I think. They're gonna be, you know, they're very tanky already. They're performing very well, I mentioned already, from a damage perspective, and this is just one other way that they're just pumping out the throughput is through Divine Toll, and that's just something to just keep in mind there. Hopefully they don't mess with the cooldown too much. 1 minute is right where it probably should be. If they end up doing anything to this in form of a nerf, we could end up seeing this maybe go up in terms of cooldown. Hopefully they will not do that, but a minute, because I think a minute and a half or even longer would be a little bit too much. And right now the state of Divine Toll is right where you need it to be, right where you'd expect it to be, and it's a really good Covenant ability overall. There's no mincing words here. Paladin is in a really good spot if you go with Kyrian. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of this ability. I already mentioned that the legendary system and choosing, you know, Divine Toll, there's a lot of different pairings for legendary options. If you're trying to plan your first legendary, throwing extra shields into the mix is only going to help with overall throughput and aggro, but you may want to focus on just overall mitigation. That is probably the one thing that I did notice, is that on the Paladin, I was taking a little bit more damage than some of the other tanking classes. Some of that, though, was masked because of the fact that I have pretty darn good healing throughput and self-sustain. So Paladins, that just might be the way that they are. They might become a little bit more glass cannon-y and have to heal themselves a little bit. We'll see how this expansion ends up shaking out. But overall, I did notice that having Divine Toll, which doesn't necessarily help you overall with mitigation, was something that, you know, despite the fact that it was a great theme, I did feel like it'd be a little bit nicer if I could do something that would just flat out give me a little bit more mitigation. But at the same time, beggars can't be choosers. This is a really good ability in a really good place, so don't let that detract or deter you in any which way. Paladin is feeling really good in Kyrian, guys. That's the good news, and that much has not changed.